Okay, good evening again. Yeah, so the purpose of this special meeting tonight is to go through a series of visioning exercises for an initiative that's recently been kicked off by Mayor Marlin called What's in Your Square. And this process is being run by Community Development, Public Works, and other departments. And really the goal is to develop a vision to re-energize the 9-block or so area that includes Lincoln Square, lots of city-owned parking lots, and other buildings. So, you know, this initiative, there's one of the goals is really we have projects going on like the MCORE project that's going to connect downtown, especially connect this site better to campus. You know, there's other city initiatives that are going on that would really, if we had a revitalized, re-energized Lincoln Square area, it could really, it could really be beneficial for the next several decades. So that's really what this project or what this process is all about. And we're really looking, we're looking for your thoughts, your ideas that will help guide us in this process. So this is the general area that we're talking about. So as I said, it's more like 7 blocks because it doesn't include the federal courthouse and the Methodist Church over on Ray Street. But for the most part, it is the 9-block area bounded by Elm Street, Vine, Illinois, and Race. And this is really a collaboration between the city and the owner of Lincoln Square Mall, because between the two of us, that makes up a lot of that 7-block area. It's a pretty large swath of land. And I probably don't need to tell you all this, but there are some historically significant properties here. The Landmark Hotel, which was built in the 1920s designed by Joseph Royer. Also the mall itself, which was one of the first indoor shopping malls in America, built in 1964. You also have the Hotel Edition, which was built in the early 80s. The mall and the hotel are both on the National Register of Historic Places. So here's a little plan view of, that shows more specifically the study area that we're talking about. So you see right in the center, Lincoln Square Mall, the Landmark Hotel. Let me see it. Number 6 will be coming up this Saturday, the market at the square, as well as a lot of city-owned parking lots there. And so what we're going to do tonight, as I mentioned, we'll be working through just a series of exercises. So sort of the first one is sort of a getting into the creative mindset type of exercise. So to open your mind for the exercises to come. And then there's sort of a word exercise. And then we'll finish up with a mapping exercise. So the first exercise is called a great place. So really, it's to think about a great place that you've been to. So if you just take a few moments, think about a great place that you've been to, and it could really be, it could be anywhere. It could be a local place, a place you've been to while traveling, just any place in the world really, but just a public place, let's say, not not somebody's great house or anything like that, but a great public place that makes you think, hey, this is a great place. So once you have that place in mind, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and think about it and imagine that you're at this place. And with your eyes closed, just think about some of these questions. Think what makes this place great. What kind of things are happening around you? What are your senses taking it? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? And then in a few moments, I'll ask you to open your eyes and then just write down the first thoughts that come to your mind about that great place that you're thinking of. So why don't you go ahead, open your eyes, and on the sheet in front of you that says a great place, just write down some of the thoughts you have about what makes it great. If you want to name the place, that will help us when we're collecting all of these responses later on. I'm going to follow along too, because I just thought of a really great place. Okay, I'm going to ask you to wrap up in the next 30 seconds or so. I see some of you are still writing.
So who came up with this system here?
It was a collaborative effort. Planners, public works folks. We had some of our grants management folks involved too. I think the first one was my idea. Close your eyes. It's a little new agey.
Who did the graphic design?
Graphic design was Pixo.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they donated some graphic design work for us.
It's cool. Looks
Yeah,
great.
it really is. Yeah. I wish I could take credit for that. Okay. So I hope everybody's mind is now open sufficiently to move along. But before we go on to the next exercise, I'd kind of like to go through and have everybody sort of share maybe a couple thoughts on on what makes the great place that you came up with so great. So don't need to go in order or anything, but if everybody could just hop in and maybe say what your place was and a few things about what makes it great.
A friend of mine's on vacation in Italy, and he sent me 6 pictures of a cemetery in Rome that he'd visited. And I'd been semi-bored with the pictures he sent me so far, but there was something about this cemetery today that I really liked. It was lush and green and eclectic and had great statuary, and it was just a really interesting place from what I could tell. Varied topography and relief, and just it was just interesting to look at. And then I wrote down things about that, and then I think about Lincoln Square, which is kind of on the sterile side, I think, on the inside. And I think back at little touches that years and years and years ago, they had the whale that's out at Crystal Lake Pool now that kids could climb in and around, and I forget why that moved out of there, if it was unsafe or the aquariums was written down. The aquariums, there were a couple, 3 maybe, that as an adult, I used to like just stop and stare and see what was going on in the aquariums. But anyway, the place it could be more interesting, I think. And that
Death analogy here between the two.
I didn't say that. Okay. But anyway, the cemetery was fresh in my mind from today.
I'll go. One of the places that my mom lives outside New Hope, Pennsylvania, which is this kind of quirky, artsy town on the New Jersey border. And one of the things that I think is kind of neat about that place is obviously the history. So they embrace the buildings go back, to a lot of them to the 18th century. So that's certainly before our time here. But if you look around and you see if you look through some of the historic preservation work that's done around the country, you see people embracing whatever the architecture may be. And I agree with you, Trent, that I think Lincoln Square is a bit sterile, but I also think that was kind of the modernist aesthetic. So that's part of it. The question is how do you embrace that inside and outside and make that a positive. So in my brain, I'm kind of thinking of New Hope. Is there, you jokingly say in Pennsylvania, if you see another old stone house, you're gonna, they're everywhere. So how do you embrace the diversity of the buildings that are there? And I think there's actually some pretty cool stuff right nearby at Lincoln Square. So to my mind, I'm thinking like quirky places with boutiques and art shops, things like that. And when you're talking about people, like a place, so people walking, very walkable is absolutely, to me, critical. So people talking and laughing and strolling and being relaxed, which inherently means not parking right on top of the event. So that's I'm sure another issue for you guys. But I love the idea. They have a river there, so we don't have that opportunity in that particular space. But there could be water features, there could be a fountain, or other public art. That's in that space too, that are things that are engaging to the eye.
Well, Matt, I think you're already getting into exercise too. But
Am
let's-
I?
Yeah, let's finish up.
Okay, green space, public art, diverse buildings,
Right
water
goes
features.
down under exercise too.
So my place is on the East Coast also. It's Rockport, Mass., which is just north of Boston. I'm from the Boston area, and it's like every year my partner and I go back there. So for me, it's the same some of the things that Matt said. People interacting with each other. There's one particular place called Bearskin Neck, which is like a touristy area, but it's very cool because it's really eclectic. There are a lot of art stores, there are a lot of really eclectic local shops, there are a lot of really interesting restaurants, cafes, stuff from all over the world, actually, kind of in this conglomeration. There's a big, beautiful concert venue that is a reproduction of an old historic building that was there. It was just too bad, but too far gone for them to save, but they rebuilt it in its image. There's a beach there, which we don't have here, but we have the prairie, or parts of the prairie. So same thing for me, public spaces, placards with historic info, housing. Mostly for tourists there, but there's housing right along there too, so that's where my mind went.
Well, my mind went to like a European plaza. I kind of envision these buildings where the upper floors are for living, work, and the lower floors are a variety of community spaces, whether it's retail or restaurant spaces. And I see people out in little tables, intergenerational gatherings of people. A lot of indoor, outdoor spaces, just kind of a place for gathering, multi-use kind of space.
Well, like mine's, my space is Siena, Italy, the plaza in particular, which is one of my favorite ever places. So it's partially the scale of things, the scale of the surrounding properties. It's the place, but it's also the surroundings of the place that I think make a difference as well. Smells, lots of garlic, always a good thing. Then the places nearby have cultural opportunities, concerts, very small concert venues, and then the restaurants surrounding the plaza have kind of a sidewalk cafe atmosphere, and lots of walkability and bicycles, and really no awareness of cars. So,
I guess since I said I'd take part, I'm gonna mention my great place. It's a city called Guanajuato in Mexico. My dad retired and moved there. I've been there one time, but basically it's a city of 80,000 people, and you can just walk from one end to the other in under a couple of hours. And it's really you just walk everywhere. There's great architecture. Everything's very scaled for people. It's just a beautiful, interesting place to walk around. There's also a lot of greenery, even though it's dense. It's dense and it's urban, only 3 or 4 stories tall, that density. But it feels very, very green and natural, even though there's a lot of people in a smaller area. So it's my great place. There's also a cemetery in the city of Leicester, where I went to school at for a semester over in England. just an old cemetery that was just amazing to walk through. You know, you see headstones from, I don't know, 1400. Yeah, but very green and somehow very alive. So I'm on board with the cemetery thing.
Is there one somewhere in this 9-block area that I wasn't aware of? All right.
No,
Just checking.
but there's still, I mean, there's some common elements, right? Green, you just can take a stroll through there. Very pleasant.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was fun. I hope you all had fun as well. So for the second exercise, we're going to, I think, try and bridge between sort of the, you know, what we were just discussing, and then actually just ask what types of things, you know, what types of things would you like to do in a re-energized, in this re-energized 9-block area. You know, what types of activities or destinations would you like to see there? But also, you know, write down maybe like 4 or 5, 6 like action words about things that, you know, things that come to mind, sort of hearkening back to your discussion or your thoughts about a great place. Just sort of try and imagine what you'd really like to see there, right? So let's just take a few minutes to do that. So yeah, I guess under A you can write sort of your action words, and then under B, I guess like activities or destinations that you might specifically like to see.
Action words that describe the atmosphere that we would want to see. Is that what you're? Lively. Like, so if we
Yeah.
wanted to see something that was lively, that would be appropriate in
Yeah,
that.
or like walking. I think you mentioned walking, so
Yeah.
walking or whatever.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll take any responses, really. All right, I see some folks are still writing, so I'll give you another minute or so. So the reason this is labeled word cloud exercise, and on the slide it says the square cloud, which I don't think we could think of anything better, but it makes you think. Is one way to to analyze all of these responses that we're getting. So that's going to be a monumental task once we get responses from all of our boards and commissions and from the public. And we have a survey that just recently went out, which the URL is at the end of this. So if you haven't taken that, you can take that. But just being able to sort of take all of the the qualitative things and then to make some sense of it. So one thing we're going to do is just to see sort of what words show up most frequently among all the responses. And then I'm sure most people have seen them, the word cloud. Do a word cloud where the words that show up more often are larger and ones that show up less often are smaller. But they're interesting to look at. It's just one way to quantify qualitative data. So that's what we'll be doing with these responses. And then before we move along to the next exercise where we map out ideas on this tracing paper over an actual map of the site, is if you want to take a few minutes to write down any larger comments, larger ideas, or any concerns you might have on the last section of your sheet. We'll take those two. They won't be as easy to quantify, but we just want to get as many ideas and comments as we can. Okay, we'll wrap up in another minute or so. Okay, and so before we move on, I know I said this about the last thing, but before we move on to the mapping exercise, like really quickly, can we just go through in a line and everybody just call out maybe your top 2 words from exercise 2 that you'd like to share with the world about, you know, what could make Lincoln Square, the Lincoln Square area, great. Trent?
So, action verbs here. Well, I had seeing interesting things while walking through. I can, sometimes there'd be some art exhibit on, I don't know, boards that were there for a weekend or something, but there's not often much interesting to look at. Exercising. Wow, watching people exercising through the gym window. I always liked that. I
So
think
more
that's
seats,
movement.
more
There's
seats
something
outside
going on.
the
I
exercise
like that.
place.
And I can think of meeting friends and having a meal there, which I have done in the past, and I don't think I could do now.
Okay, thanks. Alice?
I just kept it simple. I put walkable, music, shop, eat, relax.
Sounds like my list. Thanks.
I had pedestrian-friendly, indoor-outdoor spaces, congregating spaces, colorful, natural materials, nature, serene.
We must all be on the same wavelength tonight or something. I had eat and walk, enjoy entertainment, community or communal involvement, so, you know, everyone hanging out, relaxing with nature, shopping, and then for places or things I'd like to see, hotel, concert venue, restaurants, cafes, and walking paths.
I already gave a lot earlier in the wrong one, so
I have
take
a feeling you can give more.
take that. You know me so well. Yes, walkable. I said walkable, lively, music, open, cultural opportunities.
All right.
Plant, and under destinations, I was thinking like planting and greenery too, because it's there needs to be. And later on under 3, I said we got to do something to break up the pavement a little bit.
Yeah.
I said that too.
Okay. Sounds good. I guess I'll share some of mine since I put everybody on the spot. You know, I didn't say serene, I said peaceful. But also I said lively, because it's a big space. I think you could have, you could have a lot of things. Talking, eating, drinking, walking, basic stuff. Green, natural, like natural stuff. Outdoor music, diverse. Like I think somebody mentioned intergenerational earlier, maybe Kim did when she was talking about plazas in Italy, or and I would, I don't know, I think that makes a place really lively, is when you have tiny kids and all the way up to, I don't know, tiny adults, large adults, whatever. So, excellent. Okay, so now that we've really, I guess, stretched out our brain muscles, we're going to ask the commission to come up to the table here and put ideas to paper on a map of the study area. And we have not many rules for this exercise. The first one is to let your imagination run wild, and the second one is that no idea is too crazy. So we'll do this for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, or until everybody gets bored and falls asleep.